Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A pleasure to have you here with us at the London Film Festival. Maybe you could begin with a brief introduction. Tell us a bit about the film, what people can expect when they watch it.
The film is called Going to Mars, the Nikki Giovanni project. It's a trip through a poet's mind, which is, and we play with time, but we really examined identity
and artistry and the impact that poetry has on communities and on people. So the film is really this time travel scape into the life and work of this preeminent poet, Nikki Giovanni, and the seminal moments in history that she experienced.
expect to be entertained, to laugh, to cry, and to be encouraged to think about who you are and what we are and how we inform each other. This film, we intentionally made a little more experimental, but it won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance for Best U.S. Documentary. And it's been inspiring people to really consider what a documentary is and how we make them and what are the pillars of the form. We break them all.
And tell us a bit about the genesis of the project. What gave you the initial spark of the idea, and why were you so compelled to make the film?
Well, Nikki Giovanni is a personality, an artist, a militant activist from the late 60s who came of age during the late 60s and has impacted certainly my life as a Black woman who was looking for guidance through art and story, and she provided her unapologetic sort of approach to life was extremely significant to me, and felt like if she said yes, it would be an honor to do the work, and so that's part of it.
She's 80 years old. She's losing her memory. She has multiple physical problems and seizures. We use all of that to tell the story. So it's not a biopic per se. It's an anti-biopic, but what she is experiencing, the audience experiences. And so I think, and that's why the emotional resonance, because it becomes a personal journey for the audience to share her reflections over a 50-year career. Part of it was shot here in London because there was a very amazing interview that's been viral in the United States. Nikki shot an interview with James Baldwin, the author, right around the corner in 1970 because Baldwin refused to travel to the United States for the interview. So she flew here. And
yeah, because among many things, Nikki was also a producer of this very sort of very revolutionary, if I would say, TV show back in New York. And so he agreed to do the interview if only they filmed it here. And it's a 2-hour conversation of which we see excerpts from in the film. So in some ways, it's coming back here to London, and she's here as well. Will be part of our screening and Q&A.
So the notion of patriarchy, particularly in progressive movements, is being addressed, and I think she addresses Baldwin and makes him think about his own patriarchy.
Yeah, she challenges him on multiple occasions. As a 28-year-old, she's a 28-year-old when he's sort of her elder, but she runs toe-to-toe with him.
I think there's something else about poetry and poets that we need to remember, and certainly we are aware of it more than ever. They make us think. Their work is the work that allows us to say, maybe we should reconsider. She is a contrarian, but that contrarian philosophy and thought really inspires us to reconsider. The film really starts with a basic premise, and the premise is that Black women are uniquely prepared to make the trip to Mars, and that's been her life's work. She wants to actually go to Mars before she passes away. But she relates that trip to the transatlantic slave trade and says the trips are about the same, the encounters are about the same, the need for perseverance and fortitude is about the same. And so, why not? Let's take the journey. So, Mars becomes a metaphor for so much more.
And tell us a bit about some of the highlights, perhaps, some of the most challenging moments. What was most surprising about what you discovered along the way?
There are kind of two sides to Nikki's unapologetic sort of approach to life. It's a source of inspiration for us to also live our lives that is true to us and unapologetic also. But we were also on the other side of that unapologetic approach. So when no was no about sort of going into certain parts of her life, we had to accept that. And so that is the other part of how we grew too as artists, because those obstacles we turned into opportunities to explore creativity that became more collective in its approach. To be more specific, is she refused to allow us access to any of her personal archives that are now in a library in Boston. But what that allowed us to do was to look at the collective Black experience and the collective video archives and still archives that exist across the country to tell a collective story. So it became in some ways more universal and less specific. And her poetry provided that relevance.
I would also say something unexpected. She is hilarious. And we had so much humor that there were times we were worried that the laughter and the humor would overcome the seriousness of the film. And we had to weave them together. And I think it's worked.
Ultimately, what do you hope people will take away from watching your film?
Well, I hope this becomes a really important introduction for people who don't know her to her work, and feel transformed by the way we have engaged with the poetry, and are able. Hopefully, people will not only understand it intellectually, but will also feel it emotionally and feel sort of slightly changed when they leave the theater, but also that they be exposed to someone new and are compelled to read more of her poetry.
I don't care if they know her. I don't care if they remember her. But what I do think is that the audience will be reconsidering who they are,
Yeah.
and they will be dreaming in a much different fashion after 102 minutes of this film.
And what does it mean to you to be here at the London Film Festival presenting it, and obviously her being here too?
Well, I think we're one full circle. The film, the part of it was shot here. Part of it contains memories from or scenes from those original Baldwin interviews. But you know, this is one of the more prestigious festivals in the world. And not that I want to notch on my gun, but we're honored. It means something. And it means that our craft is growing.
And we're excited to be sharing it with the London audience. I think it's in English, so it's good to be in another sort of like maternal Anglophone sort of language community that hopefully will be able to see some of the layers and the metaphors that are expressed in the film. And we're just excited to be sharing with the London community.
And what you were saying there earlier about kind of pushing the form itself and doing something quite experimental, do you think that's something that's quite important? And do you feel sort of vindicated in the fact that, you know, winning that prize at Sundance, for example, that actually there's appetite out there, you know, to move beyond kind of the conventions that we're used to seeing?
Oh, you said it great.
But
That's exactly right.
Documentary is struggling. We don't need another true crime cult celebrity film that doesn't force us to think. It's just not titillating. That's what cinema used to be. And I think our colleagues are moving in that direction. So we're not the only one.
But the idea of vindication is interesting because we like to call this the anti-biopic because it's not about every step of her life and what she did this or that or what other people think of her or how they see her. This film is all in her voice. So there are no interviews, but it's really about entering a mindset and understanding the impact of that, or maybe having a little glimpse into what the artistic process is, but from a very emotional perspective so that it can be celebrated, understood, felt by many. So while we push the form, it's also not an esoteric endeavor. While it is experimental, we really feel that it can have a wide appeal because of the emotional resonance and and because of the words, her words and her life and what we see, we can relate to.
Thank you so much for sharing all that with me. I really
Well, thank
enjoyed
you.
visiting the film here in London. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.